Hello and welcome to SATV's International Affairs Talk Show. I shall be presiding this week and opening this week in our prestigious show. First of all, let me introduce my panelists today. We have Mr. Salim Samad, who is a prominent Bangladeshi investigative journalist, media rights defender, and independent columnist. And as of recently, he is editor-in-chief of English newspaper The Daily Sun. Alongside him, we shall have Professor Dr. Mahbub Ali, who is working in macroeconomics and entrepreneurial management and ICT in Bangladesh, who will be joining us later on in the program as he is stuck in traffic. And we will also be having senior journalist Mohammad Musab joining us from Islamabad, Pakistan. Sir, it's an honor to have you here. Let me begin today's discussion with the United States of America. We see in the news as of recent that the President of the United States, Donald Trump, and media mogul Rupert Murdoch are at each other's throats. I'll give you the news as it goes. President Donald Trump had filed a $10 billion defamation lawsuit in the U.S. District Court in Miami against media mogul Rupert Murdoch, which also represent the News Corp, Dow Jones, and the Wall Street Journal. The lawsuit coincides with Trump directing the Department of Justice to seek the release of Jeffrey Epstein's grand jury transcripts for a push from the Republican for transparency. This is the first major lawsuit by a sitting U.S. president against a major media figure and a media outlet. I want to get the attention of Mr. Salim Samad. Western media is facing an issue of the President of the United States against major media outlets. How do you see this development?
No, thank you for having me on the show. First of all, most American journalists I have met or have studied with them in Washington, I mean that was several years back, they were not aware that America has a law to number one, to censor, number two, to shut down a newspaper, a media, and number three, to punitive action, not exactly punishment, a punitive action against a journalist. And that law is only with the president, not with the ministry or any other department. So that has been, he has taken that opportunity as a president of the United States to take a punitive action against Dow Jones, especially against the newspaper which is called
the Wall Street Journal.
Wall Street Journal. I mean, one of my most favorite newspaper, but it's very expensive. But anyway, that is how he has been able to take action against it. And most Americans doesn't believe that America has a law to curtail freedom of press. I mean, of course, third world countries like Bangladesh or India or Pakistan or China, you just name any country, we have repressive laws to suppress media, but this is also very interesting that this actually was first came into light during the publication of the secret Vietnam War documents.
Yes.
If you remember that those documents when it was published in Washington Post and simultaneously in New York Times. New York Times was banned. That was successfully done, but by the time they had been able to avoid, and Washington Post continued to publish those Vietnam secret war papers. So you can understand this, the situation is not as normal as we see about the United States of having freedom of expression. So that is something which is not favorable. If United States does something like what has been doing, especially the president, of course the third world countries, the countries like Bangladesh or whatever number of states in Africa or Latin America, the head of state will do the same thing.
Of course, yes, United States is looked up to as the global dominant power.
First of all, they see it as an example. If they can do it, we can also do it.
That's a very dangerous precedent. Of course, earlier on, this wouldn't be the only instance where Donald Trump has challenged the media or is going against major media figures and outlets. Earlier on, we've seen Donald Trump being very criticisms of CNN as well. In the recent escalation between Israel and Iran, Donald Trump's remark against those two countries, and it was a comment that Donald Trump made that CNN is posting fake news and news that is not in coordinates with the current administration. I just want to come back to you regarding that issue.
I just want to add
Please,
one
sir.
single line, that it is also very interesting to understand that Donald Trump during his previous tenure, he had banned CNN, New York Times, several other media not to come to the White House for his press briefing. So, they were banned in the White House, they were not banned in the State Department or other department, but this trend is not very conducive for freedom of press.
Of course, you do represent Reporters Without Borders as well, as I'm sure. Let's have a look into what we know as the greatest humanitarian disaster. Let's look at this. According to the Committee to Protect Journalists CPJ, as of July 9th, that at least 186 journalists and media workers, including 178 Palestinians and 2 Israelis, were confirmed killed during the conflict's first 20 months. This is, of course, between Israel and Gaza. The updated figures from July 18 show another 184 confirmed deaths. In addition to this, at least 25 Palestinians were killed and more than 70 injured when Israeli forces opened fire in a crowd of starving civilians in the southern Gaza city of Rafah, according to various medical sources. Mr. Salim Samad, you are a veteran journalist and you have seen many instances of violence towards journalism. This ongoing war, which has now casualties well above 58,000, how do you see this ongoing Israel and Gaza issue? Before I touch on further breaking news.
Thank you. First of all, the death of journalists' legacy goes far beyond in the Second World War. There was a maximum casualty because the Second World War was all over the world, in Japan, in Southeast Asia, of course Europe, most of the Europe, and of course it has spread to other countries, even the Arab. The maximum photographers, mostly photojournalists, where they were attacked and they were killed during the Second World War. So that is an issue, and then the different laws and different rules and freedom of press, these issues has come after that World War. But unfortunately, after all these policies and bindings by the UN, the Vietnam War was also another graveyard for journalists. I mean, I remember several of the journalists, at least 2 journalists who were in Bangladesh covering that 1970 cyclone. They were in Dhaka. After a few days, I found in the newspaper that he has been killed in Vietnam. So you can understand that Vietnam. Now, he has been changed, and it has come to the Middle East, and it has come to the only area called the Gaza, and which is now known as a graveyard for journalists. And it is the most dangerous place in the world, according to RSF and also CPJ, that Gaza is the most dangerous place for journalism. So you can understand it is not safe. And I still wonder, I mean, personally, sometimes I wonder, how come still journalists are still working there? Photographers are working, because I see photographs, I see visual in the television, and I also see stories coming from Gaza. How can they dare to do that, despite having their colleagues and the nearest, their relatives who are also journalists were killed? I'm not talking about the entire people in Gaza. That will be very difficult for me to assess. But coming to you will be also, I would not use the word happy, but the global international media has come together for the first time after a long 1 year of war in Gaza, like CPJ, RSF, IFJ and other organizations. They have come together to make a draft, and they have signed, and then it is published, condemning the number of deaths of the journalists. Of course, injuries is there, but this is very that now it is no more that we are talking about. They are also talking about.
A very good description of what journalists are facing, according to you, Mr. Samad. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a senior journalist from Islamabad, Pakistan, who is joining us, Mr. Mohammad Musab. Let me give you the cover story before I allow you to answer. As current President of the United Nations Security Council, Pakistan is highlighting humanitarian crisis issues, including the Palestinian situation, and increasing attention towards less discussed topics like Kashmir via a draft resolution urging the use of established UN conflict mechanisms. Pakistan is also hosting a series of high-level sessions which include on July 22nd open debate on peaceful conflict resolution. July 23rd, session on Palestinian question, and also on July 24th, briefing in collaboration with the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. My question to Mr. Musab: Pakistan is having a major say in global affairs. How much will it be benefiting Pakistan given its recent clash with India over the Kashmir issue?
Hello, and thank you for taking me on this show. This means a lot to me. Before coming to answering your question, I would like to somehow implicate Donald Trump's recent statement regarding the India-Pakistan war. Somehow we've seen that since the war has come to a conclusion, Donald Trump has been constantly talking about the India-Pakistan war. His latest statement day before yesterday was that we have stopped a lot of wars. These are not wars that were small scale, these were large scale wars. He said that the India-Pakistan war was a very scaled war. The word that he used was that he said that 5 jets were downed. This is a claim that the Indians were constantly denying. He said that both countries are atomic powers and were constantly attacking each other for the past 4 days. So, answering your question, I think Pakistan's diplomatic wins include Donald Trump constantly saying, because the Indian stance is that the US pressure did not bring them to conclude the war. Donald Trump constantly saying the fact that he brokered a deal between India and Pakistan is a huge diplomatic win for Pakistan. On the other hand as well, our diplomacy, you see, usually relies on the fact on how India is doing in international community. Over the past few days, weeks and months, we've seen most international powers siding with Pakistan. We've seen the Pakistani Prime Minister visiting different countries. We've seen the Pakistani Foreign Minister, and then a high-powered delegation led by the ex-Foreign Minister, Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, visiting foreign countries. All of these have helped Pakistan in getting a better stance out to the world, something that was missing for the past few years and decades. India usually was very good at diplomacy. India usually got a better seat at international conferences than Pakistan. But this has evolved ever since this war has been won by the Pakistani side. India's claims that the jets were not downed in the initial days have been dispelled by the international community. So yes, there are 3 long-standing issues that Pakistan needs to get the world on board with. One of them is Kashmir, the other is water, and the third is cross-border terrorism. Even yesterday, there were huge bomb blasts in Pakistan. There was an activity in Balochistan, and then there was an activity in KPK. So Pakistan is constantly fighting terrorism within its own borders. And due to that, Pakistan definitely needs a good diplomatic front, which is being provided right now. And as you rightly said, in the coming few months, Pakistan expects more countries to rally behind Pakistan against India's aggression, both kinetic and non-kinetic.
Thank you, Mr. Musab. I'll definitely come back to you after a while, after another question. Immediately so, while you were answering, Professor Dr. Mahbub Ali has joined us in the studio. Welcome to the program, sir. Who's of course a guru on macro and microeconomics, and is also working in the ICT sector of Bangladesh. Sir, I hope you've had a lovely journey. Let me bring on to the news. Britain boosts computing power in 1.3 billion artificial intelligence drive. Britain has set out its plan to invest £1 billion in computer infrastructure to drive the development of artificial intelligence, and it says shall increase public compute capacity 20-fold over the next 5 years. The race to develop AI is intensifying, with the United States, China and India emerging as its front runners, putting pressure on Europe to make up lost ground. My question is to Mr. Mahbub Ali. Artificial intelligence is offering us convenience and accuracy, and in major world powers, as you know, are investing behind in such an emerging power. What is your take on artificial intelligence? Will it allow humans to be more civil?
Actually, artificial intelligence is one type of helping asset. it is not a just taking the human being. So, human being can do the work more faster way, more new innovative way, more capable way. So, we must go for artificial intelligence. I have seen a news that Dhaka University also started data analytics in master's program. It's a very good thing, and you know, one private university already started data analytics program, and also Jahangirnagar University is also doing a data analytics program. So, when artificial intelligence and robotics will work simultaneously, and we must be careful that they must be used by the human being, so that no drawbacks can use, because we have seen about Sophia. First, Sophia worked nicely, but rather after 2 or 3 days, she is behaving like a bad woman. So, this sort of problem may arise. When we are, as I work on ChatGPT, artificial intelligence, POE, and DeepSeek, I have seen sometimes they give accurate results, sometimes they did not give accurate results. So, the person who is using the artificial intelligence, he must be well conversant about the thing, what he wants to draw the conclusion, how it is human centric, how it will help the human being, what are the uses. Just a few minutes back, I was talking to my colleague that Russia loses the game not in the 80s. Why? Because they believe in linear programming and input output. They thought that as per linear programming, there will be 10,000 production of ton of cotton. But as weather is there, one of the factor, 1,000 cotton was produced. So, when we use the artificial intelligence, we must be well conversant of its and its demerits, and to overcome demerits, we must use it for the human being. In the agriculture sector, industrial sector, already some industries in Gazipur area, I have seen that they are using commercial robots, and as commercial robots are working, so people are more accustomed, and accuracy of the production capability also rises. But at the same time, those who are the laborers, they must be get alternative jobs. That is also we have to choose for. And our younger generation, those who are studying, they are more prone to artificial intelligence. I have seen from my survey.
Thank you, Mr. Mahbub Ali. Definitely, artificial intelligence does have an impact on the current generation. I want to go on to the next segment of our program. In a breaking news, we see that the Syrian government had cleared fighters from the Druze city of Suwaida and declares a halt to clashes. The announcement came after President Ahmed al-Shara orders a new truce between Druze and Bedouin factions, and the US brokers a deal to end Israeli strikes. As you know, earlier on, Israel had attacked targets in Damascus, including Syria's defense ministry and presidential palace, reportedly to protect the local Druze community. The Interior Ministry in Syria announced that the city of Suwaida has been cleared of tribal fighters and clashes have been halted. For this, I will come to both of my guests who are here with me. Of course, such an aggressive attack by Israel definitely opens the world into how the Israel is dealing with Middle East. I'll first come to Mr. Salim Samad. As you know, Israel has been having escalations in 12-day war with Iran, and in recent times they have shown provocation with Lebanon, and in very recent time we see how it has attacked Ministry of Defense in Syria. Sir, I would like to come to you. How do you take on this matter with Israel?
Thank you. I mean, first of all, we have to understand who is a Druze. Druze, the Muslim sect, which is an offshoot of the Ismaili community. Yes. Okay. I bumped into one Druze journalist in the West, and he was telling me about his religion and practices, and then I found after a few days that he's very secretive. I mean, he doesn't want to. I said, can I have your, I mean, the most, okay, let's not mention a holy book or whatever. Druze are very prominent in, they are like the Marwadis, they are like the Gujaratis, they are like the Punjabis. I mean, they are very influential people, not only in education but in everything. And of course, the Druze community in Israel had been able to convince the Israeli government, the parliament, especially the parliament, to amend the law that not only the Jews will be in the IDF, but Druze will also have to be allowed to participate. So there are a huge number of Druze who are in the IDF military, and of course the Bedouins that we talk about, the Arab Bedouins, they are also there. So you can understand they have a lot of influence in Israel, and that is one of the reasons the Israel has taken to support their. I mean, Druze are also in the parliament. There are about nearly 20 of the members from the Druze community and Arab communities, especially Bedouin also is there.
Indeed.
And Arab Muslims are more influential than the Druze and the in Israel. I mean, so I know this is what I found. I mean, doing a research. So that is one of the reasons that Israel took an opportunity to attack Damascus, the military establishment, so that to protect, to let them have a confidence that we are with you. We will not allow the third force to number one, massacre, atrocities, and the persecution of the Druze in Humayda. So you can understand the situation is very different. And Israel only few weeks back had met one of the topmost, the foreign minister of Syria in Tel Aviv.
Yes.
So it is not very surprising, and of course it is. I was surprised to see that despite having a relation with the foreign minister, and they decided to have some sort of a bilateral relationship, not necessarily recognition by Syria, and then after within a week they bombed, attacked the defense ministry,
yes.
and of course the Syrian forces. And Syrian forces, of course, you have to also understand, the Syrian force, since they came to power, they have been persecuting all the who are non-Sunnis. So that is also very important, that non-Sunnis have already been persecuted. Every check post and every place, and looting, and of course rape. And today you will find the Americans have also mentioned about the rape and the looting and the arson. So you can understand the situation is not very good, and it is, of course, Israel took. I mean, this is only Israel who can do that. No, there is no other country. I don't believe they will go to another country and exactly. I mean, by address, by GPS, they will target a building, and of course, the building was only on that part. You will be very surprised if you read the New York Times that they have attacked only the chief of staff's office,
yes.
not the rest of the building. The rest of the building is still fine according to the picture, but they have taken liberty to attack and damage and give a message that don't try to be very smart with the Druze.
Thank you for your answer. However, we know that Ahmed al-Shara's government, after topplement of Assad, the previous leader, even during that time we've seen Syria facing, it's like a war-torn country, and there are several economic impacts. I will come to Mr. Mahbub Ali. You're a veteran at economic matters, and the current interim leadership is facing various macroeconomic problems amidst this Israeli attack. What do you think are the key steps that Syria must undertake to create a sense of stability?
First, Syria should address the need of their community, because people must have their purchasing power. Without purchasing power, they cannot have a better livelihood. And first, they must have their production process. They must have capability to purchase the products by the demand and supply. And so, I think war-torn Syria has a very worst situation. People are not getting their food and they are suffering massively. To come out from this sort of massive suffering, I think United Nations has some activities, especially they must give them some sort of food and some sort of aid. Without aid, these countries cannot do well. And another important thing, because they have to live in the Arab community, so they must have more friends within the range. So Arab friends, if they help them, they will overcome the problems. Rather, if they always think that they do not have any friend, and the friend is outside the world, who are around 2000 or 3000 kilometers, then they cannot solve their problems. So they have to solve their problems. Just few minutes back, Mr. Samad said about Druze. Definitely, this is also an alarming situation, and Israel should behave properly, because humanity is the first thing. Religion is also very important, and humanity. But Israel should be cautious about humanity. They are destroying human beings. That is not a good sign. And when you are destroying human being, what happens? The not only economy, society also get a problematic situation. So to get a more important physical situation, we must put emphasis on economic sociology. So without economic sociology, the world cannot move around. And I think Syria has the opportunity, if they can change their ideas, if they actually love their own country, because nobody else will solve their own problem. They have to solve their problem, and they must have a plan, and they must have to take their friendship among Arab countries, Muslim countries, to solve their problems.
Sir, I'll have another question to you, but on a different topic. Of course, as I know that you are a professor at economics, I just wanted to get your comment on a matter that has been bothering almost various Asian nations. You know that Donald Trump had initiated a reciprocal tariff. By now, we should always call it retaliatory tariff. The effect that it had on various manufacturing giants in Asia, namely Vietnam, Cambodia, Myanmar, Bangladesh as well. Even the allies, Japan and South Korea, weren't spared. Even they had above a 25% tariff going on. And in recent news, even the Russian Federation or the Russia have been met with a secondary 100% tariff if they don't stop their war in Ukraine. I just wanted to get your comment. Is this a trade war the entire world is at with the United States? How do you see this matter?
Actually, Donald Trump did it, but he did it for the sake of his country. Let's think about Bangladesh. Why we are not reducing our American products tariff, zero tariff? If we reduce it to zero tariff, then reciprocal tariff won't be succeed. So there are a lot of economists in Bangladesh. Why they are not saying that zero tariff should be there? Another thing, our interim government chief should visit Donald Trump, and because Donald Trump has a greater wish to become Nobel laureate, so if he endorses, he will be happy, and in that case Bangladesh may survive. And about Asia and others, these sort of problems will arise different times in different names. If we think about 1995, when globalization started, a similar type of problems also arises. And after 24 years of globalization, American understand that due to globalization process, they only benefited, rather their profit was decreased by 14%. So similarly, this sort of time to time they will take tariff, reciprocal tariff and others. But from our point of view, we must make it zero. When we make it zero tariff of US products on US products, then definitely how reciprocal tariff will be 35%. That is one of the question. And second, those who are the current chief of different governments, they are not Nobel laureate, except our Dr. Yunus. So he should visit in USA and endorse Dr. Yunus that Dr. Yunus should endorse Donald Trump that he should get the Nobel Prize. It may also get a good relationship with Bangladesh, because Bangladesh has still few products, and mainly we are only selling our RMG products. Still we are not getting AI products to sell in abroad, but we must impose on AI products to produce in Bangladesh, and then it will take time. We have also other products such as pharmaceuticals, light engineering, but what happens? Pharmaceuticals or light engineering, we bring the products from abroad, raw materials, then we send it abroad. But at the end of the day, we did not find that export proceeds always come. That is also taken by the any sort of financial intelligence, whether they are bringing the export proceeds in due time, due course of time.
Thank you, Mr. Mahbub Ali. That was definitely very informative on where Bangladesh stands in accordance with the reciprocal tariff. Ladies and gentlemen, we shall be discussing range of issues related to South Asia and discussing various discerning elements in the field of news. Please do stay with us as we head for a commercial break. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to International Affairs. Of course, today we are joined with Mr. Salim Samad, who is a reputed journalist, with Professor Dr. Mahbub Ali, reputed economist, and of course, senior journalist Mohammad Musab from Islamabad, Pakistan. First, I'll begin with Mohammad Musab. There's a major development in South Asia. China has commenced construction of a major dam on the Brahmaputra River in Tibet, near the Indian border, with Premier Li Qiang present at the groundbreaking. The massive hydropower project aimed at boosting China's carbon neutrality and regional development raises concerns in India and Bangladesh regarding potential impacts on water flow and the river's ecology. The 167 billion Mainling hydropower station over the Brahmaputra River is set to be constructed as of yet. My question to Mr. Mohammed Musab, such a development in the region definitely has all the stakeholders questioning the ecological impacts it would have in neighboring countries. We have seen various cases of flooding taking place in Pakistan, and not only so, also in our home country, Bangladesh. I want to get your opinion on the matter.
This is humongous news. But as you would remember that during the India-Pakistan conflict, when I was reporting for SATV during its news bulletins, we were constantly discussing that this is something that has been on the cards for a very long time now. The water wars that have been fought between India and Pakistan are now taking regional shape. When China is also a stakeholder in this water war, what happens is that the glaciers that start melting and the water flows into India and then goes into Bangladesh and then into Pakistan through the occupied Kashmir, as Pakistan likes to call it. That this is where all the glaciers melt. So some of those glaciers are within the Chinese territory and some of those are within the Indian held territory, but most of them are within the Chinese territory. So what happens is that India starts building dams on these water flows. So when India decides to build dams on its on the water flows that come into Pakistan, this becomes a security threat for Pakistan. The actual term that Pakistani Foreign Office and the Pakistani experts use is that it becomes an existential threat for Pakistan, because Pakistan is dependent on agriculture. Pakistan is dependent on the water that comes in through Indian held Kashmir. So when India decides to build these dams, Pakistan understands that this is basically an attack on Pakistan's sovereignty. The Chinese have been constantly saying, because they're also in a land dispute with India, and obviously they have to show their muscle, they have their reasoning behind this. So if they decide to build a dam, this is probably going to go in Pakistan's favor. I'm sorry, I understand the sentiment in Bangladesh, but this is going to go into Pakistan's favor when it comes to a negotiation table. Because if China stops water that flows into India, India stopping water that comes into Pakistan will not matter anymore. But a matter of the fact is that Pakistan at this point in time is facing the worst form of climate change. I understand that the same is the case for Bangladesh and India, but Pakistan was declared ground zero in 2022. So there's not just urban flooding, there's not just heavy rainfalls, there's not just excessive heat, dry patches, there's cloud bursts that are happening in Pakistan. We'll come to this later. But this is a political move that is probably going to go Pakistan's way, because India and Pakistan started this recent war when India decided to stop Pakistan's water flow. They said that they do not agree to the Indus Water Treaty, and Pakistan's water will be cut by India and Pakistan will be made dry. This was India's intention, and China has responded to it in the strongest of terms, as China has always stood behind Pakistan. The ecological, the climate factors that come in later. That's true that both India, Pakistan, and also the third party Bangladesh will get really affected by it. But I'm sure when this goes out, because the dam is not built overnight, in the coming days, months, and years, all these four governments will sit down and will find a way on how to make sure that nobody is at the losing end.
Thank you, Mr. Musab, who's of course a senior journalist from Islamabad. Thank you for your contributions to our program here today. As we move on to another segment, let's have a look at the European Union with my panelists in the studio. This segment, of course, looks into the latest developments into the Ukraine-Russia war. Russia launched a large-scale bombardment overnight on July 18th and 19th, striking Odessa, Pavlograd, Sumy and Dnipropetrovsk regions with almost over 300 drones and 30 cruise missiles, causing civilian casualties. And this comes in as in a breaking news. Volodymyr Zelensky says Ukraine proposed new round of peace talks with Russia next week. Aside from this, Vladimir Putin's aggression towards Ukraine is very apparent. as countries in Europe are thinking of reconstruction of Ukraine and looking at instances of joint military collaboration. I want both my guests to comment on the matter. I'll first go on with Mr. Mahbub Ali. How do you see this development? The war has been going on for much more than 3.5 years. There have been numerous casualties on both sides, and much of the Ukrainian territory is being seized by the Russian military forces. How do you see this issue?
Actually, this war should be stopped because humanity is the first, and the way casualties are going, and Ukraine is become war-torn country. So, and also all over the world, it has a bad impact on the economy, global economic condition. So I think Russia should stop this war, and USA, China, Japan should come forward so that this war should be stopped, and negotiation should be go on. And there are another problem in the Ukraine, because some people are of Ukraine are Russian. That's why they support this sort of war. This is actually not good for the world economy, and food production also declined in Ukraine, and also people are most victim of this war. So I think war should be stopped urgently.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mahbub Ali. Let me just put some contrast here. Back in 2016, Barack Obama and various senior national security officials in America had stated that there is some kind of treasonous conspiracy linking Vladimir Putin and his connections to Donald Trump. How this becomes relevant in the war with Ukraine? Recent times, we've seen something different happen. Both the two leaders are at each other's throats, with various comments being thrown on social media and media in general. I'll come with Mr. Salim Samad. This war has been going on for more than 3.5 years. Much of the life has been lost. A prisoner swap program took place. How do you see the unfolding of this issue? And European leaders are all worried. Will they be the next country that Russia invades?
Yes, you are very right. I mean, if you look into the Donald Trump's election campaign, during his election campaign, one of his major agenda was to stop the war in Ukraine. That has not happened. So after he became the president, I don't know whether we should use the word he tried his best or he has given enough effort. That I am not going to discuss. But it is true that as you have mentioned, the war is still going on. And if you look into there was another war, not very old, is only few decade before. If you remember Yugoslavia, which is now broken into seven parts
countries,
or seven
yes.
countries. There is a Muslim majority area called the Herzegovina, Sarajevo and Herzegovina. Interestingly, that the European, not only the European, the Americans also decided that they will not allow a second genocide. I mean, after the First World War, Second World War, whatever the German has caused in the Europe, they have promised they will not allow a second genocide to occur into which was Yugoslavia, and they stopped it. But we should also mention that not a single Arab countries, not the Arab League or the OIC has made a single statement about how the genocide and the persecution against these Muslims in Sarajevo and Herzegovina. So let's not hear about that allegations against these Arab countries. I am very frustrated with them. Look at the Arab countries, the Arab League or the OIC has not made a single statement about Gaza. You are talking about Gaza. You are making a lot of noise. He is also very critical of what's happening in Gaza or in the Arab countries is not bothered. Arab countries also not bothered what is happening with this recent crisis in Syria. I mean, you can observe that they are not bothered what is happening to the Arabs or the Muslims or the whatever sect say you talk about. When you come to the issue of Ukraine, Zelensky possibly is still very popular. I believe he is still able to negotiate. He has been able to talk to NATO. He has able to talk to the European Union as well as the United States. Now, United States is giving them some so to protect the skies of Ukraine. According to another report in Washington Post, which I read day before yesterday, it says the number of the Sky Dome that they have they have been going to sell, or United States is giving to Ukraine, it will last only 7 days. So what is going to happen after 7 days? So they will not be able to protect their skies. So you can understand the European Union, the NATO, United States are giving so much of limited this war machine or equipments to fight a war is very inadequate, you can say. So you can understand that the sincerity of United States and the Europe Union are not very vocal and not very bold. I mean, what do you expect? They will give they are supposed to give them 500 Leopard tanks. This is not an issue for them, giving 500 Leopard. If in 1971, if Russia can give to Bangladesh war all the weapons that it is from mortar to artillery, everything was given by the then Soviet Union. So if you are sincere, you can do that. That really changed the war in 71. Otherwise, I don't know, maybe it would be prolonged. But you have to understand that if your war machines and the other, and nobody is fighting in Ukraine, you will not find that another country's soldiers are fighting in Ukraine. Yes, in Russia, yes, you will find a third country is also fighting a war.
North Korea, for example.
North Korea. I mean, and they are dying, and there is no news in North Korean newspaper. And there is no, those people who are bodies are coming to North Korea, it's absolutely silent. That's a different issue. There's a policy of North Korea, and so you can understand that it is a North Korea who had secretly sent militaries to fight the Ukrainian, but maybe there is another third country or fourth country who are also fighting in that war. That what does it give? That the Russians are not as moralized, I would not use the word demoralized, as they were in the Second World War. If you have read all those books and the cinemas in the Second World War of the Russian, you will be surprised. There's so much to confront the Germans. Whatever the effort they have given, they are not giving that effort in Ukraine. So I'm not sure whether they want to occupy Ukraine. They have occupied some parts of Ukraine, and they are happy with that. Whatever they have occupied,
yes.
Crimea and whatever they could do. I'm not. They are not aggressive. We are not going inside Ukraine. They are not going to Kiev, the capital of Ukraine. So I'm very confused of what is happening in Ukraine-Russian war.
Definitely, of course, as we come to the last segment of the show, although our program is called International Affairs, as a proud Bengali, I cannot ignore what has happened in our nation over the last weekend. We've seen violence reported in the district of Faridpur, specifically Gopalganj as well. And not only so, Jamaat Islami, the political party with the signage of the scale, has gathered in Dhaka City Shohardi Uddan and had called for a proportionate representation PR in an end to end corruption. And also they have representation in 293 seats out of 300 for the upcoming election. We have both Mr. Mahbub Ali and Mr. Saim Samad in the studio. I feel the need to ask their views on Bangladesh and how we can prosper as a nation. First, I'll come to Mr. Mahbub Ali.
Definitely, corruption is a very worse disease for Bangladesh. We cannot develop due to corruption. High corruption should be reduced. And I am not sure how corruption will be eliminated, because corruption has spread all over the country, starting from the top to the bottom. So if this corruption goes on, then the country cannot prosper. To prosper, for prosperity, we need to eradicate the corruption, and I support that to eradication of the corruption at any cost in Bangladesh, and that's why there should be some law, such as in South Africa, when there are a truth commission, so like South Africa, in Bangladesh should have truth commission, and so that those who send the money outside the country, if they declare and they are repented, then it will come back. That is one of the best process, as our debt is rising, and this sort of problem actually create havoc for the nation, and banking sector is also getting arson off, despite present governor is trying hard to return those money outflowed from the country, but still he is not capable. If we can do the truth commission, then our richer section of the society, they will get more impetus to bring back to the country. Capital should not flight from the country. The capital should be reinvested in the country, then our younger generation will get more jobs. Job is the most vital for the society, for the improvement of the society.
Thank you, Mr. Mahbub Ali. I'll go on with final remarks from Mr. Salim Samad. Definitely, it's all about Bangladesh. What do you think?
Thank you. I will, regarding corruption that he has mentioned, I will go 100 years ago. If you read a book by a British, the British official who has come to Bengal at that time, and he was posted in Chittagong for a long, long time, and he wrote a book called The Last Guardian, which is available in Dhaka, by a book publisher, Last Guardian, and I was amazed to read that book. That book describes of corruption, the system, the pattern of the corruption. It is nothing, not like today. The corruption what is today, taking money from every street corner or from the vendors. So it was very organized, and if you can read his book, it mentioned about how much you have to pay for land registration, how much you have to pay for a bail, how much you have to pay. So you can see that it is a long, and the Husband was given the responsibility to quash all the corruption in his region, and he couldn't. And he mentioned about his detail of the corruption, and even the British, of course, the British officials were also involved, and he also mentioned that by name. I am not going to go into detail of his book. So this is more than 100 years old systematic corruption, and that corruption has come down to today what we see, which is very visible, that you can see from the vendors, from the transport, and it is several hundred crore takas. It is not few 100 lakh taka. Even from the transport sector, according to Prathamalo, that they collect, even Dhaka city, not entire Bangladesh, they did a study and they found the 2.5 crore protection money is collected every day. So you can imagine that 2.5 crore is not going to the pocket of that association, the transport association or the owners association. Is being distributed and it climbs up, it goes to the top. So you can see everybody is involved. So whoever is talking about they will eradicate corruption, that I don't believe. I don't believe, because whoever has been involved in corruption, like the previous regime, previous regime, who are now talking about eradication of corruption, and of course the new political, the new political student party, they are also talking about corruption, but they are also involved in corruption. So
it's very drastic.
First of all, corruption is nothing to do with taking money. Corruption is also giving money. So it is a two-way traffic.
Definitely, it's a very nice perspective.
You have to. Somebody has to stop somewhere.
I really hope that our leaders can plan on cessation of corruption. Gentlemen, my sincere and heartfelt gratitude for your to my distinguished panelists for their contributions to our International Affairs talk show. Ladies and gentlemen, as I draw closer, today is July 20th, 2025. On this day, exactly 1 year ago, Bangladesh was put into a state of curfew and the armed forces were deployed. July 20th is also remembered as International Moon Day, to remember the first people landing on the moon. And that's it for today, as I shall be bringing you the latest updates on tomorrow's edition of International Affairs. Till then, have a lovely day.